Hi everybody, and welcome to Math with Miss Mac for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Today is going to be a quick review on multiplying with decimals in the tenths, hundredths, and thousandths column. The procedure hasn't changed since whole number computation, so this might be just a quick review. Some of you may not even have to watch the video, but I would prefer that you did, so that you can understand how to complete the required work for today. I did put optional work that does not have to be handed in, but it's optional. After you have done your required work, you can continue to work on multiplication using workbook pages from Math in Focus, or you can go on Khan Academy or Prodigy. I have put work on those websites as well for you to practice multiplication with decimals. So let's just get started with a quick review. We're going to start with 2 4/10 times 3. Okay, the first thing we do is we line up our decimal. So you'll see that my decimal is here, and I lined it straight down to here. I'm going to start with the smallest column I have, like I've always done. In this instance, it's 4/10, that's my smallest column. So I'll start with 4/10 times 3, which would give me 12/10, or 1 2/10. So the 2/10 stays in its appropriate column, and we regroup the 1 whole to the ones column. We continue on as usual. 2 times 3 is 6, plus the 1 is 7, for a total product of 7 2/10. Let's try another one. 4 9/10 times 2. Okay. First step, we line up the decimal. Here we go. Next step, we start with the smallest column we have, and in this instance again, we have a tenths column. So 9/10 times 2 is 18/10, or 1 8/10, excuse me. So the 8/10 remains in its column, and I regroup the 1 whole to the ones column. I continue on. 4 times 2 is 8, plus the regroup 1 is 9, for a total of 9 8/10. Okay, again, pretty easy, very routine. We've done this numerous times. 3 7/10 times 7. What's my first step? I'm going to line up my decimal. Next step is to work with the lowest column I have, which is the tenths. So 7/10 times 7 is 49/10, or 4 9/10. They remain in their proper column. I regroup the 4 whole. Now I multiply 3 times 7 is 21, plus the 4 that I have regrouped. And now I have 25 9/10. All right, here we go. Two 8/100 times 4. First step, line up the decimal. Now you'll notice, before we were only working with tenths, now I have added hundredths. So the hundredths is my smallest column, because hundredths are smaller than tenths. So I'm going to start with this. So 8/100 times 4 is 32/100, or I can say 3/10 and 2/100. So they remain in their column. Now I have 0/10 times 4 is 0. I have the 3/10 that I regrouped. They come into their correct column. And I have 2 wholes times 4, which would give me 8. For a product of 8 32/100. Procedure remains the same, even though I've added this other column. Okay, 2 16/100 times 4. First step, line up that decimal. I'm going to go to the hundredths column. 6/100 times 4 is 24/100, or 2/10. And 4/100. They remain in their appropriate column. I regroup the 2/10. Now I'm going to multiply 1/10 times 4 is 4/10, plus the 2 that I have regrouped, I get 6/10. There's no need to regroup to the ones column, so I can just multiply 2 times 4 for a total of 8 64/100. Okay, last one. Okay, lining up the decimal, starting with my least column, which is the hundredths. 5 times 3 is 5 hundredths times 3 is 15 hundredths, or 1/10 and 5 hundredths. They all remain in their appropriate column. I regrouped the 10th. Now I have 4/10 times 3, which is 12/10. I add the 1 more, which is 13/10, or 3/10 and 1 whole. They all get regrouped to their appropriate columns. I have 5 whole, or 5 ones, times 3 is 15, plus the 1 that I regrouped is, 16. Now I have 1/10 times 3, which is 3, plus the 1 would give me 46 35/100. Okay, so we've come to the end of our quick review video on multiplying decimals with tenths, hundredths, and thousands. Remember, you have required work to do. Please finish that and turn that in, and then there is optional work for you to do to practice multiplication with decimals. Please try your best on the challenge word problem. It does involve multi-steps. It does involve the 4 basic operations of mathematics, so that's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Make sure you're summarizing what is happening first. Create a plan, and then show me all of your work on this space that I've provided. If you have any questions, please email me, and I will help you get through it. Have a great day, be safe, and keep up all of your great work.